Everything is looking towards a good summer here because we only get two seasons up here. We get winter and we get mosquito season. That's it.
Yep. Yeah. No, I feel it's not too different down here in balmy Montana.
Mm-hmm.
We share a border. We've got the mosquitoes, we've
Yep.
got winter, we've got summer, and it's the flowers are coming up, the buds are coming out. It's fantastic.
My garden's still under snow, man.
Oh yeah, big
about,
time. Mine too.
about
But
9 inches.
there's little signs of it in places.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that get sun. I don't
Yeah.
really get sun here.
Well, nice. Hold on 1 second here because I want to say we're about 30 seconds from launching tonight's show, and we want to say hello to everyone and a great way to support what we do. The Super Chat is open on a nightly basis. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. And you know what? We're ready to go here for another great show here. So we're about 15 seconds away. Get comfy, get seated, and enjoy your night, everyone, because we're going to have a good one with Dr. Michael P. Masters starting right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the... What is that? Chive Charities. They are our charity here. And help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Dr. Michael P. Masters, a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Tech, is here tonight. He specializes in human evolutionary anatomy, archaeology, and biomedicine. He loves to explore how the persistence of long-term biological and cultural trends in human evolution may ultimately result in us becoming the ones who are actually piloting these disc-shaped craft, which are likely the very devices that allow our future progeny to venture backward across the landscape of time. Moreover, these extratempestrials are ubiquitously described as bipedal, large brain, hairless, human-like beings who communicate with us in our own languages and who possess technology advanced much beyond where we are today. He has a great book on Amazon. I highly suggest you check it on out. It's called Identifying Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomena. Mike, we've been what, about a year and a half since you were on the show last, but man, are we glad to have you back. How you been, my friend?
I've been really good. Thanks for having me back. It's definitely one of my favorite shows. In fact, I don your sweatshirt, a Spaced Out Radio sweatshirt from time to time, and I wear it proudly.
Well, you got to get the new one here, this new T-shirt, which is You Got Aliens, because you never know.
Oh, all right.
You're chasing it down. You might have some aliens, Mike. You might have some, or I guess I should call you Dr. Mike. Dr. Michael.
Oh, no.
Doctor.
No formalities.
Oh,
no
dude.
formalities.
Oh, come on, man. If I could rock the doctor title, Dr. Dave Scott. Oh, I would rock it big time. I totally would.
Well, people will ask you for medical advice all the time is the downside of that.
True.
And it's a trade-off, I guess. You can give them medical advice as long as there's a disclaimer in there somewhere.
Right. I could totally see that. Totally see that. For people who may not know or be familiar with whom you are one of the very few educated professors out there who is actually on record as checking into this subject of UFOs, of time travel, of an extraterrestrial presence that might be us of the future. Why take that opportunity? Why put your career on the line for such a taboo subject when it comes to education?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I asked myself that a lot leading up to the publication of this book in 2019. I got to tell you, I had a lot of anxiety going into it, and I've been happy to see that a lot of that was misplaced anxiety, because it's actually been sort of not the opposite of what I've thought it would be, but a lot of those fears were allayed once the book came out, and I've had great conversations with my academic colleagues, and a big part of why I did it, to get to your question, is that I feel like it's important. There's something happening, and we should be talking about this, and especially as scientists, it's our job as scientists to be asking big questions and to be trying to use our skills and knowledge to get answers to these things. So just because this is a taboo topic doesn't mean we shouldn't be talking about it. And yeah, it's unfortunate that there are few of us, but I feel like that's changing. And I mean, from going to conferences, a lot has happened since we spoke a couple years ago, and I've met so many other academics and scientists and people who really want to explore this, but haven't been able to because of that stigma, but are starting to kind of come out, and they're starting to really engage this phenomenon using their scientific background. And I feel like that's only going to get better. I think we're moving in that direction, and it's really encouraging to see.
Dr. Michael P. Masters is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. In regards to the educational side of this phenomena, is it because of tenure or the fear of losing grants that so many of your colleagues have refused to jump on the bandwagon? Because the one thing I was told by a scientist previous to, about a year and a half ago, is that we often forget that people involved in science, no matter what it is, most of them are geeks. They're sci-fi freaks, comic book freaks, Star Wars, Star Trek. They want to make these toys happen. It's what got them interested. It got everything into it, and yet their hands are tied. Whether it's about tenure, whether it's about opportunity, whether it's about future or current grants being pulled, it's a very difficult situation that you get a bunch of sci-fi people who are handcuffed from looking into what they really want to look into.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and it's unfortunate, and that's not the entirety of the situation, but it's a very real and important thing to acknowledge, is that even getting through graduate school, like I never mentioned anything about UFOs to any of my colleagues, even though one of my PhD advisors was one of the most open-minded people I could have ever talked to about this. I still didn't say anything about it, because throughout graduate school, you're basically treated like a small child. Everything you do is wrong, and you'll never live up to anything. And then even when they give you your PhD and send you on your way, it's still like, all right, good luck. And then, yeah, starting out as an assistant professor anywhere, you're still expected to publish or perish. You're still expected to bring in grant money, to do service, to be a good teacher. All of these things aren't conducive to going against the grain, to especially trying to do something that's been so heavily stigmatized and intentionally stigmatized throughout the last 50 to 60 years. So yeah, there's that part of it. You could potentially derail your career. You could not get tenure or promotion if you do something controversial, and not just with UFOs, but anything. But yeah, the whole point of tenure is so that you can pursue things. You can have that freedom to ask the questions, and it's unfortunate that it takes getting there to do that. I waited for that point. I don't think I necessarily needed to, because I teach at a university that is very aware of the role of scientists and that we're supposed to be doing these things. And I talk in my new book a little bit about my experience and how the chair of my department, when I told him I was going to be writing a book about UFOs in the context of time travel and human evolution. And he just kind of looked back at me and shook his head and said, yeah, that of course, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's our job. And I was shocked by that response, but
I'm shocked
honestly,
by you saying that.
Yeah, and since the book came out, it hit the presses. An interview that was done here locally went viral internationally, and Fox News picked it up, and then Space.com did a feature story recently that some other major media picked up, and the vice chancellor, my dean, the chancellor of my entire university, shook my hand and said, "Hey, this is great. I saw you on Fox News the other day," and so it that's what it should be. And I want to share that story because I want other people to realize that it's not like that everywhere, and it doesn't have to be like that. We can confront these things, we can talk about these things, and if we do it in the right way, it can be something that helps push the conversation forward. So to get back to your original point, this is why I'm doing this, and I feel like it's important, and I'm hopeful that my experience, however it's received, will at least be one minor cog in this massive machine that helps us to move the conversation forward.
You are in a rare position that the people you surround yourself with, from the chancellor on down, are supporting what you are doing in using science as forward thinking. Why are so many colleagues, and I'm going to hit you up about Neil deGrasse Tyson here. A couple weeks ago, he came out basically poo-pooing the idea that extraterrestrials are here, that they're out in space, we would have found them by now. Really, really downplaying the entire UFO field and the phenomena in general. When you hear your fellow scientists doing that, or somebody as popular as Neil deGrasse Tyson, as someone who is looking into this subject on a more serious level, do you just want to shake them? Let's just be honest. You want to put them in the squared circle, give them a couple of suplexes? What's going on here?
I don't want to shake them. I want to intellectually debate them and call them out on what they're saying. I have great respect for Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I actually use a number of articles that he's published in my classes, and especially with regard to science and the scientific method and separating science from speculation, beliefs, and religion and things like that. So I definitely understand his point of view. And there's sort of some epic synchronicity that happened too, because literally just like 3 weeks ago or a month ago, I was writing about him and an experience he had with a colleague of mine who interviewed him about this extratempestrial model, this time travel model. A colleague, a friend who has also long advocated for this, who sat down with Neil deGrasse Tyson and asked him about this, and then got cussed at by Neil deGrasse Tyson, just saying you can't connect these things. There's no logical way of saying that because this is I can't use the word because this is a radio show, but un-F word identified, it doesn't mean that you can make this logical connection. But you can, and there are things, and it's our job as scientists to find testable models and to make workable theories that stand up to the rigors of scientific pursuit, and we can do that. And I think it's unfortunate. It's not just him. I've heard Bill Nye, the science guy, say similar things, and just the idea of debunkers in general is ridiculous to me. Like you're coming at this from the point of confirmation bias, and you acknowledge that in your title as debunker. It doesn't make any sense, and that's anti-science to do that. You want to weigh all of the evidence. I will point out, and this is a valid argument, and one that Neil deGrasse Tyson makes oftentimes, is there's not a lot about the UFO phenomenon that is tangible. So it doesn't lend itself to scientific inquiry in the same way that other things do. But with that said, we can look at astrobiology, we can look at astronomy and physics, and look at this phenomenon in the context of anthropology as well, which is my main field, and still formulate testable hypotheses. And this extratempestrial model is innately testable and falsifiable, and that's a good starting point. And if we continue to do this and we continue to move the conversation forward, I think people like Bill Nye the Science Guy and Neil deGrasse Tyson will eventually have to eat their hats and say there is something happening. We have evidence for this, and we need to confront it.
But if science broken down to the lowest common denominator where people like me can understand it is proving or disproving theory through hypothesis, why do we see so much opinion on this subject? Or, if you want to take it through the entire paranormal realm, we see it a lot in the ghost hunting, where everybody and their dog says they're conducting scientific investigation into ghosts. We see it in Sasquatch, where people are saying, I'm scientifically investigating a monkey or the North American Gigantopithecus, without looking into all of the other categories that are out there. We seem to be conducting a lot of opinion out there, from Neil deGrasse Tyson all the way down to your amateur level of researcher. How do we break that terrible habit?
Yeah, that's hard to say, especially in modern times. It seems to be a point in human history where we've really convoluted fact and fiction, belief, speculation, and I think it's important to tease those apart. And a big part of the lecture I was actually working on today for Contact in the Desert is, without sounding too preachy, is just to really lay out, like you said, to get down to the brass tacks, the basic essence of science and what a scientific theory is and how the process works and how we test and falsify and move forward, but also recognize that there are beliefs, and it's fine to have beliefs. And really, a lot of things that people believe or speculate about the UFO phenomenon isn't any weirder than a lot of beliefs in mainstream religious ideologies. So I don't feel like we necessarily have to demonize that, but we have to recognize that there is a difference, that we can have valid testable hypotheses. We can look at what evidence we have, not scientific evidence with regard to the UFO phenomenon, because it's not tangible, but in a court of law, eyewitness accounts, they would be admissible. So if we look at what people see, what people describe, and recognize the consistency across these reports, and really try to understand this phenomenon without all of the speculative aspects to it. And it's our nature to want to do that, to try to understand things and make up theories about it, but recognize that that's important too, that people can have those beliefs, but really draw that distinction, draw that line. I think it'll help us not only move the conversation forward, but also help us get past some of the stereotypes and the stigma that's been constructed around this. And it's easy for people to say, oh, all of this is the same. If you say the word UFO, you wear a tinfoil hat, you're a crazy cuckoo person that runs around the woods naked and drunk. But it's not the case. And people are starting to realize that. And the Department of Defense in the U.S., and the Tic Tac videos, and Go Fast, Gimbal, and FLIR, they've all helped add something tangible that I think is a good root. It's a good basis for trying to carry this conversation forward and to show people like these skeptics and these debunkers that there is something happening. Now what do we do? Now what? How do we move this forward? How do we understand this? And to show that it's important. If this is really happening the way that so many of us understand it, and not just with regard to UFOs, but other paranormal things, like you said, let's not just throw science around as a buzzword, but let's really try to break it all down and understand it in the most logical way.
Dr. Michael P. Masters is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have about just over 5 minutes until we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Now, for you, when you educate amateur scientists in this field, whether it's through interviews, lectures, phone calls, emails, even in front of your class, how do you break it down for them if they want to look into UFOs or they want to look into Sasquatch or the paranormal? I realize Sasquatch and paranormal really aren't your thing, but it's still along the same lines on how amateur science should work.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think that we even really need to draw a distinction. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because, when we talk about paranormal, innately, it's things that aren't normal, aren't quite normal, that we don't fully understand, that aren't easy to study. But really, if we find this basic approach to all of these questions where we start conservatively and then look at things critically, and honestly, I think really just comes down to critical thinking, which is an important skill for any field. And even within the sciences, it's important to always look at new theories in the context of what we know and what we can know and what we can't know. But yeah, in my classes, when I teach about human evolution, it's funny because long before I ever published this book, just even describing the process itself, not just our morphological changes and the things that have happened to our craniofacial anatomy and our postcranial anatomy with becoming bipedal, but also the technology, the culture. There's been probably 5 or 6 times at 3 institutions that I've taught at throughout graduate school and as a professor afterwards, where people were like, so I just thought, after you said this, do you think aliens or maybe us? Like it seems logical. It seems intuitive if you look at this long history of our biocultural evolutionary change. So I think if there's places where you can connect the dots like that, it makes sense. And maybe there is, like you said, I didn't really look into Sasquatch too much or ghosts or spirits or anything like that. But I think we can use these same critical thinking skills in all of those different realms. And actually within biological anthropology, there's been a lot of people who I've seen that have addressed the Sasquatch issue. If we're talking about Gigantopithecus and ancestors of humans that may have persisted in isolated places throughout the world, that's what we do. That's in our wheelhouse as biological anthropologists. And even though I haven't addressed that specifically, I do know that it's something that we are interested in. And I've been to lectures by biological anthropologists who have written books about this topic and have been looking at it critically, but also open-mindedly. And it's been really good to see. And it was actually an important part of why I felt compelled to come out with this book and to talk about this more openly, because we should. I was kind of inspired by this talk I went to in graduate school, where this guy was describing the potential evolutionary aspects of Sasquatch in the context of human evolution and hominoid evolution writ large.
We've got 2 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. And getting back to UFOs, because that's what you were here for, have you ever seen a UFO personally?
Oh, come on, man. That cuts me deep. No, I haven't.
Ouch.
Sorry,
Mike.
I know it hurts, man. I wish I had. I long for that. I look at the sky with a little tear running down the side of my face pretty often, but no, I haven't, unfortunately.
How do you think you would react to it?
How close is it?
Let's say 10,000 feet, you see a triangle.
All right. How much time do we have before break?
Minute.
I would watch it closely. I would watch it critically. Is it a triangle? How fast is it moving? 10,000 feet's pretty far away. I would feel compelled to believe that I saw my first UFO, but still ruminate on it ad infinitum and probably convince myself I didn't actually see it. Even though
you were trying to convince yourself that you didn't see it.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm still very skeptical. I don't know. Having never seen anything, it's hard for me to think that I ever will. I believe people, and I believe all of these accounts, and the consistency across them is stunning, which helps me believe it. But if I saw it with my own eyes, I think I would be hypercritical.
Well, you know what? As we go into break, this is a good thing for our audience. Let's do a test here. Let's all put some massive critical thinking, some massive energy, and some massive positivity that Dr. Michael P. Masters, our guest tonight, could get some aliens in his life. He needs some aliens.
Bring me some aliens, people.
Bring him some aliens. Science Bob wants you to get some aliens. Dr. Michael P. Masters here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll continue the UFO time travel talk right after this on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. I'll throw a little wrench in your experience. It'll make you cry. Bob McGuire. You know Bob McGuire, correct?
Are we live? Or
yeah, the audience can hear us.
Can we talk?
Yeah, Science Bob is in the chat room right now. Do you know Dr. Bob McGuire?
Oh, cool. I think we're friends on Facebook, and I've read some things he's written.
Yeah,
and I feel like I've respected all of it, but I don't know him personally.
Oh, we got to get him to know you. When he comes up to BC, we'll make sure that him and his wife stop in Montana to see you. I know he's listening right now.
Yeah.
But by the way, Science Bob, thanks for the super chat. But about 3.5, 4 weeks ago, Bob and I actually got taken together.
What? No way.
Yeah, we got taken together. And I knew that I got taken that night. I remember listening to I listened to YouTube videos to fall asleep. I remember falling asleep, and then the next thing I know, here's a hotel, all dark and dreary. Science Bob is there. Olaf Phillips was there, and a few other people in ufology were there. I can't even recognize them. I just know that it was filled with people in ufology, and there were 3 grays running around. So I woke up the next morning, and my body felt like absolute shit, and like I hadn't slept a wink, and I was just so sore. Like I was just dragging my feet like I had the worst hangover ever. And so I called up Bob on my way to my daytime job. I'm like, how'd you sleep last night? And he's like, well, I was tossing and turning. He goes, my wife Sharon got up in the middle of the night a couple of times because it kept sounding that there was people walking in our house. And anyways, long story short, I told him what happened. He goes and checks his Fitbit, and his Fitbit was showing that he was up for 90 minutes in the middle of the night.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should bring me along next time. Maybe you can bring the aliens. 'Cause I'd love to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would love to consciously remember it, too, though. It seems like there's a lot of screen memories that are implanted in people or just lost time and things like that. But I'd really like to be a part of it and remember and see and bring that information back. But
I have one.
I'm so jealous. I have
one name for you. I have one name for you. Bring her down to your school to study. Her name is Samantha Mowat.
Samantha, how do you spell that?
MOWAT.
I got a sketch pad here, so I'm writing it down.
Her website, throw a .ca on the end of that, and her phone number is on there.
Cool.
And put it this way, I've known Samantha now since April 15th, 2014. That was the day I met her. 20 minutes after meeting her is when her and I walked into a forest and saw extraterrestrials standing there in the forest.
So is she some sort of ambassador? Or
oh, I don't know what.
Was it just
deeper
connection?
Lifelong contactee.
Interesting.
Yeah, and real deal. It's the only person, and I know Bob swears by the Bledsoes, but and they are brilliant, and I totally believe them. But it's the only person that I have truly met in my life that when they say you've got aliens, you got aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like, to be honest, I'm approaching this from as an outsider, an Edic point of view, as we say in anthropology. And I feel like it gives me some perception of it, but it's never going to be as informative as being a participant in this phenomenon. And I guess that's part of my jealousy and anger about that question, have I seen anything? I've not seen anything. I haven't got to interact or really have any sort of formal or informal contact. So I don't know. It seems like you could get such deep insight into what's going on and who these individuals are and what their lives are like if you can actually meet them and contact them and commune with them.
Do me a favor. Have a conversation about with Bob McGuire about Samantha. Okay? Don't take my word for it. Bob has talked to her and on my recommendation, and he was very happily pleased and surprised with how much she knew. Hold on, my friend. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate all of you being here. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Dr. Michael P. Masters is here. He has a great book on Amazon you definitely want to add to your collection. Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomena. He teaches at Montana Tech. Dr. Mike, welcome back.
Hey. Thanks. Good to be back.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. For you, in someone who has never seen a UFO, but you were trying to push science to its limits, in the current stage of where we are on this confirmation/disclosure, everything that seems to be going on, what do you think is the purpose of all this right now? For 70 years, we've been trying to pry information out, and then all of a sudden it seems like disclosing UFOs needs to be a priority of some sort. Have you looked into that at all?
I mean, I have, as much as any of us can. Obviously, we're limited in how much information we can get. And to be honest, I feel like I have less information available to me. And fewer avenues and fewer contexts that I can use as resources to get that information. I'm coming at this, like I said earlier, as an outsider, which has its own value in a sense, but also it's limiting in another sense. But yeah, I mean, to speculate, I guess, because I can't know, and I don't think, well, some people probably know, because it does feel like somebody's driving this car. And we're all just in the back seat yelling amongst each other like a bunch of 4 through 10-year-olds about what's actually happening in the front seat. But I feel like we are moving in that direction. There's sort of this collective sense that we're moving toward some form of disclosure, whether it be a lowercase d or a capital D. And for me personally, and again, acknowledging my biases and coming from this extratempestrial model perspective, it almost seems like maybe we're getting to the point where we can know, where we're knowledgeable enough about technology and our own evolutionary past and just the inner workings of time. We still don't understand time. We understand it's an emergent phenomenon. It comes from something else, but we don't yet understand what that thing is, but we still are smart enough to recognize it. Okay, I guess to break this down, try to imagine explaining to Neanderthals or Homo erectus who you are and how you travel back through time. There's just no mental capacity to understand that. But I feel like as a human species, we're approaching that point where maybe we could understand that. And if they said we're from outer space or we're from time or you're in a simulation or whatever it is, I think that we could probably process that without destroying our entire economy or political system or social structure. So I don't know. For me, I'm hopeful that this is it, that we are at this point. And there's obviously a lot of things that indicate we have a ways to go. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that it'll be, at least within our lifetimes, that there is a full understanding of what's been happening. And you're right, it's been hidden from us for so long, but it feels like something's different now, and I'm hopeful that it is different.
Is there a purpose that you have been able to figure out or talk to people as to the timeline of everything? We have had this subject absolutely scrambled, mixed, thrown in the trash, brought out of the trash, brought into the forefront, laughed at, spit at, pointed at for decades. And
Yeah.
we're going on 80 years here, coming up in a
Yeah.
few years. And yet here we are where all of a sudden we're supposed to believe everyone talking UFOs. Doesn't make
Right.
sense. From an academic standpoint, I know what the minute people such as yourself with your credentials kind of get involved in this field, people will talk to you because of the credentials that you have. Even if it's off the record or whatever it may be, has anybody talked to you regarding the purpose of trying to bring this out now?
Huh, that's a really interesting question. No, not about what's coming out now and why in particular, but I have had people contact me. Just after the book came out, I did a couple coast to coast interviews, one with George Norrie and then later with George Knapp. And I did get a couple of emails from people who claimed to have been ex-intelligence agents, and one at Los Alamos, and they couldn't really give much detail, but told me, you're onto something here. Keep going with it. I'm glad you're doing this. One individual in particular told me something that I completely overlooked in my last book that seems extremely obvious now that I talk about more in the next book. And it was funny because he mentioned it, and then I was like, hey, thanks for reaching out. And I was going through 100 emails a day at that point, so I didn't really acknowledge that thing specifically. In fact, it completely flew over my head. And he wrote me back and said, no, I think you need to think about this. It's very important. And I thought about it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, he's right. Like, how did I miss that? And so there's little things like that, and who knows if any of these people are who they say they are, but little things like that indicate that they know something, and they can't really just say who they are and why they know what they know. Whether or not they are that person, it's still added something to what I'm doing that I didn't have before, and carries this forward. So, no, I don't have any insights into that. I wish I did. It feels like something's happening. And if, honestly, if whatever I'm doing has any part to play in that, I think it's fantastic. But who knows? Honestly, there's days where I feel like this is important. There's other days where I feel like I should just mind my own business and keep doing my juvenile onset myopia research and stay away from UFOs. But it's fun. It's definitely an interesting thing, and I feel like it's starting to get into the mainstream, and it's not just ufologists, and like we said earlier, there's more scientists coming into the fray. So it's exciting. It's definitely an exciting time. There's no doubt about that. But who knows what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years? I'm excited to find out, to be honest.
Do you think we were being visited by aliens?
Define aliens.
Okay. Little gray men, big black eyes, 3 fingers, 1 thumb, stand usually anywhere between 4 feet and 5'2" tall, wearing silverish black bodysuits, no body parts. Can't tell if they're male or female because there's no genitalia popping out. They like to take people. One's named Carl, who showed up at my window back in 2015?
I do. Yeah. I disagree with the number of fingers, though. From most reports I've seen, they do have pentadactyly. They do have 5 fingers. But yes, everything else about that description, I absolutely do believe that. And at this point, I will acknowledge that it is a belief because I haven't seen them and there's no physical proof. But so many people have described the exact same thing or such similar things that to me it seems ridiculous not to acknowledge that this is happening.
Where do you think they're coming from?
I think they're coming from our future.
That's a bold statement.
It is. But I not only believe that, I think that most of the evidence really supports that. And especially if we consider long-term evolutionary changes in our own lineage. And one of the main things I try to do in my first book on this subject is show just how dominant these trends are and how there's no reason why they wouldn't continue into the future, namely our encephalization, our larger brains, our neurocranial globularity, where our brains aren't just increasing in size, but also changing shape, becoming more rounded, larger eyes, larger eye orbits, smaller faces. I explain how the gray skin can be understood in the context of self-domestication since we started to practice agriculture around 10,000 years ago. There's all of these dominant trends throughout our own evolutionary history that seem to connect our past to our present to this future form. And importantly, it's not just these gray alien beings that's a dominant archetypal alien form, but the majority of the ones that are being identified and the ones that are being seen, at least according to the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free Foundation, the study that they did where they surveyed over 3,000 individuals, the vast majority are human. And not even just humanoid, but actual humans described as real men and women. And then you have the Nordics too, which clearly are still human, but a little bit different, slightly bigger eyes, but still with those northern European characteristics. And then the next most dominant form after the humans is the tall grays and the short grays. And then only 5% are actual insect or reptilian type beings. So if the vast majority are described as human, or even the grays who have quintessentially human-like characteristics, they're still bipedal, they still have the big heads, the big eyes, the small faces, all of these things that we have. We can debate the number of fingers, and that's kind of difficult to count when you're being anally probed, I guess, so we got to give people a pass on that one. But if they have these quintessentially hominin characteristics, then why shouldn't we consider that maybe they are a part of our phylogenetic lineage? They're a part of our clade. They are hominins, but from a future time. So we don't see them yet because they exist in our future. We are their ancestors, and they're our descendants.
That is very heavy. It's very heavy to think that they are time traveling back here to experiment on us. Is it a DNA thing? If so, is it a breeding thing? Considering we hear so many women talk about these hybrid children, we hear of men being anally probed to stimulate the prostate in order to secrete sperm. We hear a lot of this happening around there. You know, if you were to put two and two together, what's the answer?
Well, nobody knows the answer. All I can do is come up with what makes sense based on what we know about our evolutionary history. But I do, in the book, talk about a couple of dominant trends. One is that we've become one large interbreeding population. We've succumbed to essentially genetic homogenization, or at least we're moving in that direction, because ever since European colonialism, where people started to travel around and kill and murder, of course, but also reproduce with people in other places, we no longer have isolated pockets, or even if we do, they're very small and insignificant at this point in the context of our overall genome. we've started to amalgamate the entire human population to the point where we're just one large interbreeding population. And what that means is that if this continues into the future, we're essentially going to suffer from global incest. So we have negative traits that come with sharing what we call alleles identical by descent. We get an increase in, trying to not use a bunch of esoteric jargon here, but homozygous recessive traits, the negative characteristics that we get from inbreeding, start to occur in a higher frequency. So if we run into problems with reproduction because of that, because we're just one large isolated interbreeding population on this island of Earth, we've also seen decreasing birth rates. A lot of populations, especially in more developed countries, have dropped below the replacement rate, where they have fewer children than two to replace themselves. But we also see a decrease in the sperm count of men in the Western world too, which is a trend that's been going on for about 40 years. All of these things signal that we might have problems with reproduction in the future. So it might not be experimenting on us. It might just be them trying to save themselves, trying to extract our gametes so that they can diversify their own gene pool in the future. Because if you think about it, if we are one massive interbreeding population, the only place to get new genetic variants, new alleles that aren't the same, is to sample them from past human groups whose DNA didn't make it into the future. So it gives you novel gene variants that you can interject into that population in the same way we do now. We do this all the time in conservation projects. If we have a group of ducks or orangutans that's becoming too inbred, we just try to sample genes from other populations that we can interject new gene variants into those groups. So if they have the technology to travel back in time, and especially if they lose a lot of reproductive capabilities or just the ability to do it the same way we do, which is arguably fun, and we don't just do it for reproduction, but it's fun, and that would suck about the future if we don't do that anymore. But if they need to get new gene variants, if they need to create babies in this artificial scenario, it might not be about us. It might be about them and what they do to try to save themselves and carry our species, our collective species, forward, but in a future sense. So we can't know, but I feel like we can still come up with some logical explanations based on what they're seen doing, what they're observed doing, and based on some past and current trends in human evolution.
So basically, not only are we an interbreeding species, but we're a dying species, even though the population keeps increasing.
Well, it is now. Yeah, absolutely. But there's some pretty stark indicators that it might not, that we may see a population decline. And while, that's going to be good for things like pollution and global climate change and things like that, it would actually have a negative effect on many aspects of our economy. And if people just lose interest in reproduction, we already see that in for instance, Japan. They don't really care much about starting families and making babies. And if we keep delaying these things because of other interests, and that's a cultural thing that can change. That's very fluid. It'll fluctuate a lot throughout the years. But if it's tied to some deeper aspect of what it is to be human, if we're moving in that direction, then yeah, and it could honestly be good if we outsource reproduction, if we have ectogenesis, as it's called, if we have external gestation, that could help allow for more female empowerment, more equality between the sexes. A big part of why females have been such a subjugated group throughout the ages is because of that burden of reproduction. So it's hard because we think about external gestation. We don't have that baby in us, but it could also be a positive thing in many ways, at least in the context of society and equality. So I don't know. I mean, these are all somewhat speculative things that are somewhat tied to things that are going on, but also make sense in the context of what's being reported. If you look at Terry Lovelace's description of what he saw when he went in that large triangular UFO, Jerry Wills describes almost the exact same thing from his own experience. You have all of these gestating fetuses in this pinkish or bluish fluid lining the walls of this thing. So maybe that's just how babies are made in the future. Who knows?
Kind of a boring way, to be honest.
It is, yeah. I
mean, but
yeah.
But I mean, I don't think that we can really blame society for the way it's going. Most people need two incomes in order to have a family.
Yeah.
We have seen a beautiful uprising over the last 50 years and the brilliancy of women shining through and realizing that they don't have to be barefoot and pregnant in a house being dominated by a man. Instead, we have these incredible women all across the globe who are teaching school, who are doctors, nurses, astronauts, everything that 50, 60, 70 years ago they were told they weren't allowed to do. I mean, this goes way beyond just voting, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And they've got a taste of that career because their brains work, I think, better than mine. I can tell you that. Every woman that I mean, hey, I'm just being blunt and honest here. And I would say that, because a lot of women have been able to focus on their careers, that they've really enjoyed what they've been able to accomplish and want to, have the fruits of the labor rather than having to settle down and be a part of the family and do the traditional when they don't have to. Why sit down?
Along those same lines, even cesarean section has allowed more opportunities. You can schedule when the birth happens, and it's not just a medical necessity all the time. In many cases, it is, obviously, but just having more control over reproduction, this thing that's obviously a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to undermine it, but it is also a burden. It's a opportunity cost. It drains the body of energy, and what comes out of it is beautiful. And I feel like that's why talking about these things is highly conflicting for people, and especially mothers, because you have this sense that I grew this and it's my baby, and if you put that in the context of this sterile environment where it's growing in this incubator, I think that there's a gut reaction to that, not just for women but for men too. It's almost like we separate that thing that gives us this nurturing, this love, this empathy that we get from being born and breastfeeding and having this bond, this neonatal bond. But what if it's something that we don't want, but it's just an inevitability? If it just happens, and based on these trends with fertility and fecundity, maybe that's just where we're going. And yeah, there could be some tremendous latent benefits for equality and for women's rights. Who knows?
We have about 1 minute here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Dr. Michael P. Masters is our guest tonight. Are aliens from the future? Oh, man, that is such... I wasn't prepared for that one tonight. I'm going to be honest with you, Dr. Mike.
I've been on your show before. You knew it was coming.
I know, but it still scares the daylights out of me each time. It really does. That would also... take it from a different standpoint. Whatever they are coming this way. And trust me, I have thought about that. I'm playing it up a little bit here. But the technology to get here. Do you think we have, and we'll carry this over into the next hour, do you think we as society now have the ability to time travel?
Right now, no, I don't think we do. I honestly don't think it'll be too long. And yeah, we can talk about this after the break, but in the same way that this disclosure process is happening, it seems like our technology and our knowledge of space-time is kind of converging to this point where we might kind of be inching closer to that.
Wow. I still think there's jump rooms out there. I'll wear my woo hat. I think there's jump rooms. I actually, believe it or not, got sent photos from someone, a source that I trust, who got photos sent to them. I realize I'm getting a friend of a friend of what's an alleged jump room in a building in the United States. Weird, I know. but we got to follow the woo each time we go down that path. Dr. Michael P. Masters, his book on Amazon, Identified Flying Objects, Multidisciplinary Scientific Approach to the UFO Phenomena. We continue on with this scientific approach to this show right after this. All right, my friend, I'm just going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Oh, thank God. I got to pee so bad. I'm glad to hear you say that.
All right, bro. Be right back.
West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best-rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or...
All right, I'm back, buddy.
Hey, yeah, I just got back to him.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Hey, what's a jump room, by the way? I wanted to ask, but I didn't think we had enough time before.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you know, this goes into a lot of the theories of Andrew Bashago being a child chrononaut and all of this. It's kind of a rabbit hole thing. It's weird. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, you piqued my interest.
I will. I'll see if I can get those sent to you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to learn more for sure.
Yeah. Let me.
Because I Googled it and there wasn't a ton of information.
No. Let me see if the person is still awake.
Oh, you don't have to do it now.
Oh.
It'll just it could be a follow-up thing at some point.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake anybody up.
Oh, no.
Nobody likes answering questions when you wake them up from a...
This person said that they would be likely listening tonight.
All right.
Yeah, so I will see if they are.
I guess we'll find out, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you to Science Bob, J1, and Cat Chaser for the awesome super chats. And here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Felicificative. Oh, I said that wrong. Felicificative. Felicificative is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Dr. Michael P. Masters out of Montana Tech. Looking into aliens. What are they? Who are they? Where are they? It's almost like a song that could be out there. He's got a book on Amazon. You can pick it up. Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomenon. Dr. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm being attacked by spiders at the moment.
Oh, well, then better you than me.
It's not a big one, but I just went to set my pen down and there was a spider right where I was doing that. I'm sorry. All right, I'm back.
All right. Scared the hell out of me just by that.
Yeah.
Making it a horror movie here.
Yeah, feels like it.
There's a few things I don't like in life. You know, it's funny because I find spiders in my house. I actually leave them because as much as gross as they are, you know, and as ugly as they are, they're good for the house. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
They are good for the house.
I'll try to take them outside. I'll try to leave them when they're right by my hand where I'm putting my pen. I kind of have a problem with that, but no, I agree. I agree. They're good. They're good. Scare the crap out of me, but they're good.
Yeah, for sure. They're like little aliens.
Yeah, they are. That's true. I mean, we just don't really understand them. They're too different from us. If they looked like little people, I think we probably wouldn't smash them as much.
Right. That's a very, very, very scientific point there. Very scientific point. Would you put your degree on the line for that one?
I mean, it would kind of be fun to create little tiny robotic humans in the size of spiders and see what people would do. I think they would actually smash them much more.
Right.
If there was a miniature human running around where you're trying to put your pen. I don't know. That could be a fun experiment. It also might cause some PTSD in people, so
True.
I don't know if you get approval for that.
True. All right, let's get back to time travel here, because you believe, or you are theorizing, I guess that's the proper way to put it, that a lot of these ET contacts that we are seeing are us from the future. What we could be doing, 500 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years from now, and that's hard to fathom, hard to think of when we pretty much live in a society where we go by it hour by hour, minute by minute. But time travel, this is a subject that intrigues everyone. It intrigues everyone from, the so-called time travelers that Art Bell talked about with John Teeter, jump rooms with Andrew Bashago, and you don't believe that we currently have the ability to time travel as of yet, but you don't think we're that far off. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's hard in the context of time travel. As someone who I draw from extensively in the book, a Russian physicist named Igor Novikov, whose namesake is the Novikov self-consistency principle. He points out in his book, The River of Time, that in the presence of a time machine, you can have things from the future influence the past. You can have a future cause elicit a past effect, and that flies in the face of what we understand the world to be. We live in a unilineal trajectory of time, the arrow of time, I guess it's oftentimes referred to as. But so, yeah, even though I don't think we're necessarily there yet with the technology we have, if there were crashes, and specifically if Roswell was a legitimate event in 1947, and if it was a time machine that crashed into the desert that year, we would have the ability to figure out how this thing works and potentially create the same thing that eventually goes crashing into the desert in 1947. And there's nothing inherently wrong about that. It violates our fragile sense of causality because there's no creator. The people in the past didn't create it because it was just thrown at them from the future, and the people in the future didn't create it because it was the technology that was reverse engineered in the past. But there's nothing that violates any law of physics within that. You can have something that's not created by anyone, but it's still self-consistent across those different points in time. So that's why I was sort of wishy-washy on answering that question, because I don't feel like we have yet created that. But at any point, we could, you and I could be picked up right now in our time and taken back to 2000 BC. I mean, we could be transported, even though we don't have that technology now. If at any point in the human future we do, now everything's on the table. So at any point in the past, we could potentially have that. It's complicated, but it's not illogical.
Okay, so if we're moving towards that, what do we need to do? What are we missing out? Are we missing out on the physics of it? Are we missing out on the current technology of it?
I think it's the material sciences. I don't think we have what we need to be able to withstand the forces exerted, also to be able to manipulate space-time in a way that you can minimize those forces. And an important aspect of this is when we observe a UFO instantly accelerating and instantly decelerating, like the Tic Tac, what's described by David Fravor and others, what they see on the radar, Kevin Day and others, is that you have this thing seemingly doing 30,000 feet in seconds. And of course, that would smash anything inside, any biological human-like being inside. However, if you think about it in the context of manipulating space-time, what we see as this instant acceleration could be a very slow progression to them. It could be just like hitting the gas pedal of your car where you feel yourself speeding up. But if they have the ability to traverse these vast distances and traverse through the fourth dimension of time, then their frame of reference might be very different than our frame of reference and could help account for those seemingly impossible G-forces that we expect them to feel as simply a difference in perception. So yeah, I don't know. I think we're inching closer, but it's going to take not just the material sciences, but also energy. I think it would take a tremendous amount of energy to be able to do any of the things that we see these craft doing, and I just don't think we have that yet.
Question coming from our chat room from Aaron, who is asking, Dr. Mike, do you think us figuring out gravity better is our key to time travel?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it's part of the same situation. We almost every physicist, regardless of how they feel about time travel, and honestly most agree that there's nothing in the laws of physics that prohibit it. They still don't necessarily think that we're going to be able to do it until we combine general relativity with quantum mechanics, and a big part of that is understanding gravity. So I think Aaron is spot on there with, we need to figure out what exactly gravity is. We need to figure out what exactly time is. As I mentioned earlier, it's what they refer to as an emergent phenomenon, meaning that it is something, it's tied to something else that we don't yet understand. We can see the effects of it and kind of how it interacts with things. T is an important part of any physics equation, but we still don't really understand that basic element of what it is. And gravity, to a large extent, at least in the context of quantum mechanics, is kind of that same dark horse. We don't yet fully have the ability to understand it. So until we have a theory of quantum gravity, I think we're just kind of flailing around in the water.
Do you think outside of these creatures coming from the future and time traveling back, that we are being visited by entities, if I can use that word, from different planets in the solar system or outside?
In our solar system or other solar systems?
Anywhere in the universe.
I mean, I think it could potentially be a part of it. I really don't think that this extratempestrial model is mutually exclusive. In fact, the interdimensional model and Jacques Fabrice Vallée is argued in favor of intertemporal, interdimensional for a long time. I think if we're talking about upright walking humanoid beings, really, if we're going to differentiate between time travel or interdimensional, it's essentially the same thing. It's either coming back from the future in our same timeline or same universe, which is the block universe model, which is the most dominant model among physicists, or we're talking about the multiverse, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, but we're still talking about humans in just a more advanced state, whether they're coming from a different timeline or the same timeline. I feel like that's part of the same situation. With regard to the extraterrestrial hypothesis, I don't discount that. I think that because life arose so quickly here on Earth, as soon as it could, essentially, once we had liquid water and once we had an atmosphere and some other basic elements of life, that it could happen on other planets. I don't think that we're going to see humans or humanoids or anything closely resembling what we do. We've had such a unique evolutionary history, and the more you look into the details of not just hominin, but hominoid, the primate evolutionary history, the mammalian evolutionary history. If that asteroid hadn't hit this planet 65 million years ago and wiped out most of the dinosaurs, we'd never be here. There wouldn't be mammals. We'd still be underground with our homeothermy, just cowering and coming out at night because that's all we could do. So I think if we look at the extraterrestrial hypothesis, there's problems with it with regard to the phenomenon, the UFO phenomenon, but I definitely don't think that we should just rule it out. With a phenomenon that's mysterious and complex, we should really be considering all valid models and all interpretations.
Okay. So with that, in wondering whether or not we have been visited by other ET species, when people claim that they are taken on a craft, where do you think they go?
Well, it probably depends. Some of them seemingly go to a moon base on the dark side of the moon. That seems to be a common theme, which is interesting if you think about it, because I don't believe in like hollow moon theory or anything like that. But if you were going to hide out, whether you're an extraterrestrial civilization or an extratempestrial or anything in between, the dark side of the moon and the bottom of the ocean seems like a pretty good place to hide yourself away. Antarctica would be good too. We obviously don't have any proof that there's a moon base there, and there's not a lot of people going to the moon, which is weird. I find that a little bit strange that we went to the moon in the 60s is when that happened. Then we just never went back, and we just like, sweet, we did that. Nobody cares anymore. But I don't know. Why is that? Why don't we care? I want to see the backside of the moon. I want cameras up there, and I want satellites orbiting it. We don't have really anything going on with the moon, even though it's the only other celestial body right next to us. But yeah, I mean, other than the ones that describe going up to some sort of moon base, I think most of them are probably just abducted. Are we? I guess I should probably clarify. Are we talking about abductions or
either or ET contact or alien abduction?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's very case specific. If these abductions are happening, it would make sense that they would pick people up, which seemingly happens in very remote places for the most part. There's exceptions, but they're picked up in remote places and they're taken for some period of time. There's certain cases that indicate that they're able to just freeze time in that vicinity around the craft and then go about their business. And I've written about a couple of these case studies in my new book. But it would also make sense just to pop up into space a little bit and do whatever you need to do and then pop back down. It's clearly very easy for them to do that. They can move very fast. So I of course, have no idea, and especially as someone who's never had an experience. But the missing time thing and the way time seems to move differently, not just in and around that craft, but for things that have come into contact with them, would seem to indicate that if they wanted to just stop time and do what they're doing, they could do that. Me personally, without the ability to stop time, I'd chuck them up into space and do my biomedical examination up there. But if I had the ability to stop time, then why not?
All right. A couple questions from our audience here, if you don't mind. Let's go to Nikki in Washington State. What about the idea that ETs are not time traveling, but are millions of years farther advanced than we humans are, and are opening portals and wormholes to travel?
Yeah, that could be too. I again don't discount the extraterrestrial hypothesis, and if they are coming from other places, there's a couple things to unpack there. With deep space travel, there's still going to be the effect of time dilation. So, for instance, it's usually phrased in the context of the twins paradox. So if you have two twins, one gets into a high-speed spaceship, travels for some period of time at close to the speed of light, they come back. They're much younger than their twin who was previously the same age, who stayed on Earth, because in their reference frame, time moved much faster. You have to deal with that stuff coming from different planets too, if you're traveling at a high rate of speed. If you go through a wormhole, it's the same thing. You traverse this tremendous amount of space in a very short period of time, which essentially means you time travel into the future. In the same way that when we look at stars in the sky, a lot of those aren't even there anymore. Many of them have burned out, but the light that came from them at the time that they still existed is just now reaching our eyes. An example I use in my book is that if you're looking at through a telescope that's capable of seeing Earth, and you're on a planet that's 65 million light years away, you're still looking at dinosaurs, because the light that left our planet that's just now arriving in that telescope arrived from a time when dinosaurs were here. So it's complicated because we're not just talking about space, but we're also talking about time. So yeah, if they're coming from a wormhole, if they're coming from a different solar system, and again, not to default back to this humanoid aspect of it, but if they are humans or even bipedal or have any of the same traits that we have, it's really hard to conceptualize how they wouldn't be related to us. It's just it's illogical to think that on a planet with a different gravity, a different distance from its sun, different chemical composition, different atmosphere, water pressure, air pressure, that you would get something that looked so much like us. So yeah, if we're talking about just any sort of entity, absolutely. But if we're talking about a humanoid or human-like being, it's just hard to conceptualize how that would happen somewhere else.
All right, we've got about 3 minutes. We can sneak in one more question here. This one from Justin, who is asking, excuse me, has Dr. Masters seen or found any evidence of time travel in his studies in history? And if so, do you have examples?
Oh, I like that question. No, I haven't. I've actually worked at a number of archaeological digs in South Africa and southern France, here in the U.S. and in Ohio and out in Montana. I've run a couple of archaeological field schools, and everything has been very consistent with the time. I learned recently of this acronym called like ERPS or OOPS or something like that, where it's like out of place something. Artifacts, out of place artifacts, OOPARCs maybe. I don't know. But I personally haven't found any of those. Everything has been consistent with the time period and the human group studying. But I think if people find them, we should definitely consider them. I'm not a big fan of just speculating wildly that everything is ancient astronauts or it's put here by aliens or anything like that. We definitely built the pyramids and we had technology to do that. But if something is out of place, let's consider it. Let's talk about it. And even within our field, we do that all the time. We're constantly revising dates and places and times. So it's healthy. It's part of the scientific process.
Perfect. Dr. Michael Masters is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We have about 90 seconds left before we need to go to break at the bottom of the hour. I would love to know if time travel's here, man. I
would too.
I really would. Is there a way to find out? I mean, the government has so many hidden secrets. Come on, you got some sources. You haven't tippy-toed around saying, where's the time travel booth?
I got nothing. I wish I did. I don't. People always ask me, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? And I always say the future. I want to go here, but in the future. I want to see what it's like. And it's got to be so impressive and so amazing. And there's been a lot of sci-fi shows about it. It's a fun thing to think about, but I feel like it's real, and I feel like a big part of this phenomenon involves that. I can't wait to see it, and I hope that they tell us about it, and I hope that we all get to travel around through time at some point.
Well, I hope so too, because I just, man, that could be so much fun.
That could.
That could be so much fun, especially if we get to fly the ship.
Oh, my God, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I want to fly the ship. That's what I'm waiting for.
Hey, maybe that's why they crashed in Roswell, is you and me got to go in there and take control, and we had a couple beers and then smashed it into the desert.
You got that right. You got that right. Mike, hold on right there because we do have more audience questions coming up for you. UFOs, time travel, aliens. Where are we going with this? To the future. But we're not going back this time. Spaced Out Radio with Dr. Michael P. Masters continues right after this. All right, we're clear. Works for me. Works for me. You don't have to have your microphone on mute. We're hanging out with the YouTube people, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you said initially that we were live during breaks.
Yeah, we are. The YouTube people and Spreaker people can hear us, but that's okay. So we're not. They hear live people.
But we can say like fucking shit and stuff because we're not on the radio.
If you want to say booger, you can say booger. It's okay right now.
I kind of do, but I feel like that's a bad word, and I shouldn't say the B word.
Just try it. It feels really good.
Booger. Oh, that is nice.
Yeah,
right.
There it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
All right, that does.
There it is. It feels good now. Now you feel good.
It feels so dirty though. All right. Well, it's good to know because I was muting myself most of the time. But, so we got. Wait, what time is it? 11:30.
We have 1 hour left.
All right, cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm gonna do a preemptive.
Yeah, you go.
So I don't have to.
Yeah.
Go
by the way, just so you know, Steam Train Mark in Australia, who lives in the future, has said that you and I are alive tomorrow.
Oh, very good.
Yeah,
that's good to know. I've been having these weird pains in my arm, and I was a little concerned, but now I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Perfect.
I appreciate that Steam Train Mark. Is that it?
Yep.
All right, fantastic.
All right,
thank you.
Hit the loo, man.
Will do. I'll be back in a jiff.
Mm-hmm. What do you want more of, Amy Vegas O? Mm-hmm. 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 Do-do, do-do. Do-do, do-do. Do-doop, do-doop. Doop, do-doop, do-doop, doop. Do-doop, do-doop. Do-doop, do-doop, doop. Probably a good time to go over the Mighty Moose Beard Oil at mightymoosebeard.com. Going to put a little True North. Normally I'd put it in my beard, but since I don't have a beard anymore, besides this beautiful set of stubble here, which is actually quite cooling and refreshing, by the way, I do want to let you know there are no chemicals in Gary the Dutchman's creation, Mighty Moose Beard Oil. Go to mightymoosebeard.com, use promo code SOR2019, and for the ladies as well, or for those of you who don't have beards, like Dave doesn't have a beard, it's real simple. Just drop it into your hands like so, just a few drops. That's all you need. Don't need to overpower it. Rub it in your hands, and you can just slide it in, rub it in, massage it in. That's it. It's as good as it is. You know, keeps your beard on top, keeps your hair looking good. Thank you, Cat Chaser, for that awesome second super chat of the night from you. Appreciate that. That's all you do. Helps with split ends. Mighty Moose Beard. Just a couple of dabs will do ya. That's it. Dave should have gone for a proper what do you mean? I've got good lines that I cut here. Good lines, Solaire. Good lines. I got to thicken it up a little bit. It'll thicken up a little bit. Don't worry. Oh my God, my hair looks terrible now. There it goes. Bonjour, Julien. Comment ça va? All right.
I'm back, by the way.
All right, man. I got my Mighty Moose beard oil in my hair because it's good for your hair, too.
Does sound nice. How does it work in beards?
Fantastic.
All right.
Fantastic.
All right. Good to know, Mighty Moose. Writing it down now.
MightyMooseBeard.com, good Canadian company. You put the money in, it all is in Canadian funds, so that way, being American and your dollar being worth about, way much more than ours is.
So I can buy 5 times as much as
Pretty much.
All right, cool.
All right.
Good to know.
Hold on right there. Big thank you to Fapster, Cat Chaser, J1, and Science Bob for the super chats. We really do appreciate it. Here we go with the second half of the show. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue our conversation tonight with Dr. Michael P. Masters. He's got a great book on Amazon, Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomena. Are aliens from the future? He tends to think so, but we're looking on it. We're pushing it. Seeing where we can go down the speed dial. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Right on. Right on. And let's see here. Philip is asking, since the aliens, or whatever they are, seem to be able to freeze time, why do people have long periods of missing time?
Yeah, I think, and again, nobody knows, and I don't claim to know, but what I believe is happening in these situations is that it's a series of events that are consciously recognized as transpiring, meaning these people feel that they are going through these things and this is happening, but that they have the ability to sort of snip synapses or take away memories, which then leaves this void that feels like missing time, where I experienced something, I was taken, these things happened to me, and I know they did. And whether you believe in the powers of hypnotic regression or not, it does seem to kind of reconnect those synapses to the extent that people can start to remember things that were previously a void. So they went to sleep, they woke up, they know something happened. What was it? I have no conscious memory, so my brain fills in that gap by saying time just skipped ahead. And honestly, we all experience this every time we go to sleep. We go to bed, if we have a good night's sleep, we wake up, and it feels like no time passed at all. So I feel like our brains are already somewhat malleable in the sense that the way we perceive time and the way we conceptualize and quantify events in the context of our notions of time are already somewhat subjective, and whatever they do to our brains, and not just with time, but screen memories, they implant specific memories that aren't necessarily there, weren't a part of that reality, whatever happened to us during that abduction event. So I feel like even if they're freezing time on the outside, it's not necessarily freezing time on the inside, that the abductee is still experiencing these things. It's just sort of taken away from them before they're released from captivity, so to speak.
Right, and that makes sense. Okay, Let's move on here to Eugene's question. He is asking, how long have you, Dr. Masters, been involved in the UFO alien research?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in a sense, I guess I have since I was 8 years old. I very vividly remember looking up and seeing a copy of Whitley Strieber's book Communion and having this instant interest in the subject when I saw this kind of primitive human chimpanzee-like creature, modern human, and then this archetypal alien form that is somewhat represented on the cover of Whitley's book. And since that point, I'd always been interested. I remember seeing stuff with Bob Lazar when I was a kid, and coming home and sneaking into my parents' bedroom and turning the TV on and watching these shows. Popular Mechanics used to have stories about UFOs, so I feel like it's always been a part of my life. But it really wasn't until 2012 when I remember the exact moment. I was at a local brewery here in Butte, Montana, and I went up to a research assistant of mine who was working on a separate grant-funded project, and I said, hey, I was thinking about writing this book about UFOs and kind of explain the premise to him, and I said, I've got some other funding in my IDC account, which is just a kind of a slush fund that we have from other grant-funded projects, and I said, what if I hired you to do a little basic research on this? And he said, yeah, that sounds weird, but cool. And so I feel like as far as really getting into the weeds of it, it was October 2012.
Let's move on to another question. But before we do, I want to ask you, do you regret it? Do you regret going down this rabbit hole?
Not at all. It's been super fun. Honestly, like I think about this all the time. And what else would I be doing? I would be, my job is super rewarding and super interesting, and I've gotten to travel throughout the world and work with amazing people and do things in museums and archaeological sites. But this part of it really challenges my thought process and really challenges my ability to understand things, and this too, like talking to you and having your listeners ask questions, like that's really interesting to me, and I love people's questions, and I love thinking about things in different ways, and the mental stimulation that comes from that is phenomenally rewarding. So no, I have no regrets whatsoever, and I've been very happy to have this ability to talk about these things and think about these things with like-minded people. It's been super fun.
Nikki is asking, what about ETs traveling within our universe? Would there be a time delay?
Yeah, I mean, that almost, and it's hard because we're not necessarily live with Nikki. I guess we are, but there'd be a delay in me asking a follow-up question too. It depends on your reference frame, like a delay for whom and with whom. A delay with where they're going and who they're trying to reach, or a delay with where they came from. And the answer to both questions is yes. There would be. If you're traveling near the speed of light, it's going to be a really interesting kind of delay. And a fun way of thinking about this is if you travel out away from Earth right now at the speed of light, everything that you look back on Earth freezes because you're moving with the light that came from Earth at that time. So everything's completely still, and you see it as this snapshot, this frozen entity. But once you turn around and come back, now you're blasting through all of those moments that came before and speeding through them. And when you return to Earth, as I mentioned before, because of that compression of space-time, all of those moments on Earth happened a lot faster, mostly because you froze time going away from it. So yeah, no matter where you went, from where or to where, you're always going to have a delay. And, as a side note, not to dwell on this too long, but I think it's great that you see that more in a lot of modern science fiction shows. They really acknowledge that delay more, and they used to just gloss over it all the time. But it is a real thing, and it's definitely something that we should consider, even though it's annoying. I was just watching an HBO show recently with the Olaf from Frozen. He's one of the main characters in it, and the delay is not only something that they acknowledge, but this constant annoyance where they're all just fighting about it the whole time. I wish I could remember the name of the show, but that was probably a way longer answer than she wanted.
Well, Nikki specified here. She goes, time delay if you as the human are on the ship and the ship is flying faster than we humans can imagine.
Yes. Then yes, there would absolutely be a delay. And it would be, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And at that point, it depends on what speed you're going relative to the speed of light, because that's a constant, but your speed away from that thing is going to be relative to the 300,000 kilometers per second that signal's being sent. So, yes, definitely a delay.
All right, let's move on here. Aaron is asking, Dr. Mike, do you think we have undiscovered elements that will leap us forward in the space-time problem?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, it almost seems like there has to be, whether it's natural elements or man-made elements, human-made. I guess man-made's kind of patriarchal, but human-made elements that we don't yet know about. I mean, I mentioned earlier when you asked about why can't we time travel now, and I thought it was mostly a material sciences problem and an energy problem. So yeah, what are those things? What are the basic building blocks? Is it some kind of nanotechnology? Is it some sort of carbon fiber thing? Is it combining different elements? Or is it completely new elements that we don't yet know about? I obviously don't know the answer, but I think there's a very good chance that it's things we don't yet have. But yeah, that's a great question.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see here. Big J is asking, have you ever heard of the interior of the UFO being bigger than the outside of the ship?
Yeah, I have. I've come across that in a couple of cases, and I always thought that was interesting. I don't know, really how to explain that, especially having never seen one from the outside and or in the inside. But it could be a perspective thing, I guess, or it could be some way in which they manipulate the material itself. There's also a lot of reports of it being able to turn translucent, being able to see through it, the entire ship, which is crazy. And a very, very common one that I've found in researching this new book is the lighting. Any abductee or contactee that gets a tour of the ship or just finds themselves running around it frantically still notices that the light there isn't a light source necessarily. It's emanating from the walls and the ceilings. There's kind of this effervescent, all-encompassing illumination that happens. So clearly the material itself is way beyond anything that we have today, and still draws from the things that we have, the things that we need. We still need light to see. We still need to be able to see where we're going with windshields and things. So there's that cultural connection, but clearly some really sophisticated technology that we don't yet understand or have the ability to reproduce.
Interesting. Okay. And I'm just checking to see if there's any other questions here for right now. No, there isn't, so that's okay, as I know more will pop up as we go through the show here. But getting back to that question from Big J, what do you think is causing that, where people claim to see this small orb of light hovering outside their bedroom, and they get taken upon it, and the next thing you know, it's about the size of a football field inside this? I mean, is that a manipulation of space and time, or is that a manipulation of physics? What is your guesstimation on that?
What I personally think, and you know, it's funny because I'm not a ufologist, and I don't have the deep knowledge that a lot of people do have, and I respect those who do because I think it's important. But from what I've read in my limited amount of research into this, it also seems like a lot of times people are taken to and from different sized craft. And if we factor in that missing time component, and in fact, in Whitley Strieber's book Communion that I referenced earlier, he talks about sitting in this circle of light. It was outside of his cabin. When he was taken initially, he was there, and there were these little kind of humanoid, childlike beings running around, the sort of quintessential grays that are described. And then he sort of blacks out for a while. He wakes up and he's in this room, and then he wakes up somewhere else. And Travis Walton describes going in and out of multiple ships, even being in a base at one point where he could see the ships, different sized ships, many described as being 20 meters, 40 meters, 60 meters wide. So it's also possible that the actual craft that does the abducting, that needs to be smaller so it doesn't draw a lot of attention, is the one that takes them, and then they're transported to another ship that's larger where they actually have all of the tools they need to do the examination, whether it be up in space or around the moon or whatever. So it very well could be that people are just kind of brought in and out of consciousness and taken to different places, and they remember the initial experience seeing the thing outside their window, but then where they were actually examined was something that was a different ship or a different place, that was a very different size and shape altogether. So again, I don't know, and I have no way of knowing, but just from reading different people's accounts, it seems like that could be a part of it.
Very true. Very true. Okay, let's get to another question here from the Philip Blair. The Philip Blair. You know, he's like the Ohio State.
Is it, I was going to ask, is it capitalized? T-H-E?
He goes with two E's.
Oh, even better. That's what Ohio State should have done, too. They should have had an extra E. Yeah, they really dropped the ball on that one.
I really appreciate that. The Ohio State.
I do too.
If there's nothing that says I'm an a-hole more, it's not Ohio State. It's the Ohio State.
Ohio State. But I would like to clarify, in their defense, it's only because there was a lawsuit over the name Ohio, and I was actually at Ohio University when this happened, and Ohio University won because they were older, so Ohio State was like, well, screw you, we're going to be the Ohio State. So it only was because of a lawsuit between the two schools and the name Ohio. So it's not because they were complete a-holes. It was a-holes specifically targeting this other university in Ohio, which I guess still makes them a-holes.
A friend of mine used to play for the Ohio State football team.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and he ended up spent a couple years in the NFL with Jacksonville, and then ended up coming home to Canada and playing in the Canadian Football League for the BC Lions.
Nice.
And,
that's awesome.
And I remember talking to him, I said, so you went to Ohio State? He goes, no, I didn't go to Ohio State. I went to the Ohio State. I'm like, really?
Hey, at least they back it up. Like, if you're going to put capital THE out there, you better be damn good. And they are. They win championships. They dominate the conference. And even beyond the football team, it's a fantastic school. I have no regrets about going there.
Well, I don't blame you either. I really don't blame you either. But anyways, let's get to the Philip Blair's question. What scientific journals do you recommend for college students interested in ufology?
Wow. That's a really good question. I mean, so you've got your. All right, I'm gonna pull this back. This is a fantastic question. I've never thought about this before. And it's hard because there aren't necessarily a lot of academic journals that deal with the subject yet. I feel like that could change. And I know people who are actually working toward getting some things published. I mean, I guess as far as understanding and asking questions about things related to this, there's the databases, JSTOR and EBSCO, JSTOR and EBSCO, that would, if you could get anything from those databases that relate to the social sciences and the physical sciences, and if you had specific search terms within those, I think it would probably give you some decent results. But I will warn you that most will be highly critical of the UFO phenomenon. It's and this is such a fun little thought process. Like I said earlier, I have no regrets because this is fun. This is fun to think about. I was actually asked to review a paper recently that was being published in an academic journal about, I think, regressive hypnosis. I don't remember the exact topic. I refused it. I didn't review it because I felt like the premise was just, it was too biased. It was too far off, and I didn't want, I just didn't want to be a part of that. But I feel like there is starting to be more attention paid to this. I just don't, honestly, I don't think you're going to find anything. And I hate to say that, but I don't think you're going to find anything that's not just overly critical, biased against anything that has to do with that. I don't think we're yet there. And it feels disheartening to say that. It's probably disheartening to the person that asked that question, but I feel like that's the reality of the situation, because I have Googled these things. I've looked in EBSCO, looked in JSTOR and these other databases, and it's just, there's nothing encouraging. And I feel like that's more of a testament to where we are with regard to actual inquiry into this phenomenon. And it's sad, but I don't think it has to be that way, and hopefully it changes. And I feel like that was a horrible answer to that question, and I apologize for that.
Well, at least you're honest. I thought it was a good answer, but
I'm trying to be honest. Yeah, I'm trying to be honest, but I also talked in circles for like 10 minutes before I gave an honest answer, which also made it bad. I don't know.
All right, we're going to start this one. You may want to continue it into the next hour. This from Brett Lewis, and he is asking, or pardon me, this from AA Ron. I apologize. What's the good doctor's thoughts on dark matter and time travel?
The good doctor has very little knowledge of dark matter, which makes it hard to give an informed answer to that question. I mentioned earlier in the show that I don't claim to have all of the answers. I will acknowledge now that there are things that are very far outside my wheelhouse, and that is definitely one of them. I don't have really even a base knowledge of dark matter. I feel like it's probably important to this conversation, but it's not something I feel like I can comment on.
Well, that works. Well, we can accept that answer. That works for us.
I appreciate that. It's not a cop-out. It's honesty again.
Where do you want to see this go? 45 seconds.
I want to see this go to a place where all of us know everything and we all get to sip pina coladas on the shores of Hawaii in about 5 years.
That would be awesome.
I think so.
That
was only about 20 seconds.
With UFOs and aliens.
But yeah, all of them, everybody, from all different times. And not just future humans, but past humans too. Maybe that's what Sasquatch is. Maybe it was Gigantopithecus that they picked up and they brought through time. Maybe they're there too. Maybe they have a pina colada. Maybe they're huggers. Maybe they get angry when they're drunk. Who knows? But that's where we would find out, and I think we should do that.
Well, you know what? It's something we can investigate as we have Dr. Michael P. Masters for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio before we get to, a lot of things. We got the SOR Newswire that Captain Shirk has prepared to us. We have the thought of the day, time travel, UFOs, aliens. Who are we? What are we all about? We'll find out from Dr. Michael P. Masters next on Spaced Out Radio to kick off Hour 3. Stay tuned. All right, bud, I'm just going to run my dogs outside one more time, and I'll be right back, okay? We got 6 minutes. Hold on, maybe if I turn you up, I can hear you. All right. We got 6 minutes. Be right back.
Rock, while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spaced-out-radio.com.
All right, brother, I'm back. Hi, D. Swagger. How are you? You back, Mike?
Oh, yeah. Hey, sorry, I just got back.
Oh, that's all right, dude.
Hey, I couldn't help notice you had some guitars in the background there. Do you play?
No, I know 2 notes.
That's pretty good, actually. I mean, there's
really.
only so many. That's a percentage of the notes.
Yeah, I suck real bad. But that's okay. One day I will learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's never too late.
Never. One day I will rock. One day I will rock.
Do you feel like you don't play because you're intimidated by not being able to rock right now?
Yes.
Then you should get over that and just start playing.
Probably should.
I know so many people like that, and it's unfortunate because it just takes sucking at something for a little while to get to the point where you're really good at it and it's fun.
Well, one day, I got to get these 2 here restrung. Those 2 need to be restrung. This is my daughter's guitar right here.
Does she play?
She was playing for a little bit, but she's decided that hanging out with friends is more important now.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
I remember that, actually. I took piano lessons as a kid and reached that point, and then I found other friends who played. And
hold on, buddy. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you're tuning on in around North America on our terrestrial affiliates and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Felicificative. Felicificative is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Dr. Michael P. Masters. He's got a great book on Amazon called Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomena. And let's kind of find out what's happening today. You know, we talked a little bit about this, Dr. Mike, in the first half hour with everything that's been going on in the news over the last few months about disclosure. In your opinion, as somebody who studies everything from humanity and everything from anthropology and the way we've morphed into who we are, is society ready for any type of disclosure?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I've vacillated on that a lot. It's hard because I feel like there's moments where we're growing and evolving as a society, but also ones where it just seems like there's rampant ignorance about even basic aspects of science. So, yeah, in my opinion, which is just one person's thoughts on this, I think we're inching closer to it, and I'm hopeful that it happens soon, but I don't know. I guess I just don't know. And I feel like my hopefulness maybe trumps my hesitancy because I want it to happen. And there's bias in that. But yes, I'm going to say yes. We're there. We're ready. Bring it. Bring the aliens.
Okay, and that's easy enough to say, but a lot of the questions that I have regarding this is, how are we going to react? Look how we reacted and have reacted towards COVID. We have become a depleted society of thought, of asking questions. We've become a society that is adrift, some going on one side of the ledger, others going on the other side of the ledger of, we got, anti-vaccine people versus the vaccine people. We have everything, people hoarding toilet paper, raiding the grocery stores for food. I mean, and this is a disease that has an over 95% survival rate, right? And trust me, I'm not trying to get into the whole COVID debate here, but just on the way people have acted, I can just imagine what's going to happen if all of a sudden we are told we are being visited from the future or by any type of living being from outside of our planet.
Yeah, and I think that gets to the deeper issue is that we've sort of constructed our own reality, and it doesn't matter what anybody else says or even what science says about the survivability or the efficacy of masks or the efficacy of vaccines or whether or not Bill Gates is peeing in your vaccine or put microchips in. It doesn't matter. We just construct our own reality. And in a sense, that could be good, I guess, or it could be bad. If they are from the future or if they're from outer space or it's a simulation, we all find out at the same time, it's going to have a different effect regardless. Everybody's going to conceptualize that differently. And I was asked once, what about all of the deniers? What about the staunch, unwavering skeptics and the debunkers, where a UFO could land on their front lawn and an alien could come out and slap them in the face and they'll say, no, doesn't conform to my reality, so that didn't happen. Like that's where we are. That's where we are as a society. And so, yeah, it makes it hard to answer that question because who knows? And then you'll have all of these couple of companies.
There you are. You kind of cut out there for a quick second.
Yeah, who are owned by the same companies who spin it in different ways and construct their own reality around it and tell people to perceive it in certain ways. So who knows? Yeah, I mean, when you frame it that way, no, we're definitely not ready. Or we're perfectly primed for it. Who knows? I mean, I go back and forth minute by minute to where I feel great hope for humanity and then just utter desperation about who we are as a species. So I'm probably the worst person to ask that question too.
Okay, well, I'm going to fire a couple more questions your way this way. What about religion?
What? That's the most vague question.
Okay,
what about
in regards to aliens or people from the future being here?
Oh, like
you have literally more than half of this planet that is devout to their specific religion, whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Christianity, Catholicism, whatever, where they tend to believe that anything from the sky is demonic.
Yeah.
How are they going to react?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from personal experience that there tends to be a disconnect between the UFO phenomenon and established mainstream religions. I grew up in a very Judeo-Christian, born-again Christian sort of household. And yeah, the whole idea is that it's the devil trying to lead us away from God. And honestly, when I wrote this book, I started getting letters in the mail in my office, like many, many letters from priests and preachers that were telling me, not that I was wrong or that I'm going to burn in hell, which I kind of expected, but they were actually kind of woke. I was surprised to see that. It was the same sort of thing we're talking about, where people are trying to understand what's happening and frame it within the context of their own worldview. And I would get like articles and news clippings of things that they thought was related to this, but still like this has to be in the context of what I know. And we're living through a time of epic tribalism. Like and it kind of explains a lot of it. It's not just religion. It's not just politics. It's our belief system is this or that. We construct the other. We create this divide between people. And it's been easy to do that with ufology and with this subject. And I think it's unfortunate. And if we're going to move this conversation forward, we need to disconnect it from the crazy conspiracy theories and the stereotype that people have about the UFO phenomenon. But with regard to religion, it doesn't have to be that way. It's not that the main argument that I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe your listeners can, who have a religious background as well, that it's God created us here. So if there's other beings out there, then that's blasphemous. And what I'm arguing is not that there's beings out there, that we're all still here, so it shouldn't piss people off. It shouldn't violate that sense of creation and who we are as a species on this planet. But the UFO subject does tend to do that, and maybe it's because that we've harped on the extraterrestrial hypothesis for so long, and it created this division. I don't know. It's a complicated issue, and honestly, we could have a whole show just about how much maybe these past interactions with future humans created some of these religions that we're talking about right now. I mean, who knows? Was Ezekiel, which describes the same things that people are describing now, just UFOs and the alien beings, and they described it in the best terms that they knew how, but didn't really fully understand it in the same way that we don't understand it now. There's a lot of ways in which religion plays into it, I think, but it also pisses people off to talk about it.
All right, well, speaking of things we need to talk about, Brett here in the chat room is going absolutely haywire because we usually ask this question during the break, and I haven't yet. He wants to know, what is your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
Why is that something you have to ask in the break?
Well, normally, when we try and make conversation during the breaks, we asked that question and I forgot, so he's punishing me. Say, Dave, we need to know. We need to know.
And we don't have any more breaks, so this is the only time to do that, right?
Pretty much.
All right. Well, I will tell you that I love it. I actually come into the kitchen and I say, it's breakfast for dinner, folks. Gather around, and we make omelets, and we make hash browns, and we cook all of the kosher animal products, which I don't actually know what that means because I'm not Jewish, but we make foods that are consumed, and it's delicious.
Disappointing.
Why is that, Dave?
Because
do you not eat breakfast for dinner?
No.
Is that sacrilege?
No, I do not, because they're called breakfast foods for a reason.
Mm-hmm. I will adamantly disagree with you.
Why
burn
do they have the
my
title?
Spaced Out Radio sweatshirt in effigy over this issue.
You can't do that because it's fireproof, number one. But number two, I will say this. There's a reason why they're given a title of breakfast foods. Because they're for breakfast, not dinner.
Labels are for soup, Dave. Labels are for soup. If you call something, it doesn't mean that it's that thing. My father-in-law won't eat mashed potatoes after Labor Day. And I'm like, that's that's an arbitrary thing that you came up with. And your definition of what a breakfast food is completely arbitrary. What if you ate a breakfast burrito that had no eggs in it? Is it still a breakfast burrito?
Well, of course, because it's titled.
Uh-huh. So it's all about the title. It's all about what you call it.
Hey, smarter people than me have made this up. All right?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I appreciate the question.
I will say this. Imagine how proud I am when I go to Tim Hortons tonight and my son wants a breakfast wrap. And I said, they don't make them that way. Not at this time. That's for breakfast. Breakfast food's for breakfast. Dad, I want this. No. Yes. Fine. So I pull through the Tim Hortons drive-thru, and guess what? I go to order it, and they say, we don't serve breakfast foods after 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
So I was proud to say, order something else, bucko. Yeah, I was proud.
And what exactly is a Tim Hortons?
It would be the equivalent of your Dunkin' Donuts down there.
And this is something that you celebrate in the country of Canada, Tim Hortons. And they don't serve breakfast.
You'll get there.
Hey, I went to Calgary a couple years ago for a conference, and I drove by a Tim Hortons like every 3, what do you guys say, kilometers or something?
Kilometers, yes.
Yeah. You're civilized people. You don't use our weird English-derived system of measurement. But I never stopped in one. I was always intrigued, and that I actually feel like I failed as an anthropologist, having never sampled Canadian fare. But do you feel like your disdain for eating breakfast for dinner is a part of the Tim Hortons mentality?
No. I'm just a realist.
Okay. Because it kind of sounds like you're enculturated into this this Horton society.
Well, it is good. I will say this, and they're not a sponsor of the show, but I will say this: your first time going to Tim Hortons, order yourself an iced cappuccino.
That does sound delicious.
Oh, it's phenomenal. They're addicting. They're very, very addicting, and it's like a Slurpee. That's a cappuccino.
It's got caffeine in it. I'm sold. All right, I'm moving to Canada.
Yeah, that
convinced me.
If I tell you, our population in Canada from immigrants from the United States would grow by triple if anybody tested the ice cap. I'm just saying. You'd move here just for that. You'd suffer through the cold. Man, it's like 20 below zero outside. I will order an ice cap because they're that good.
No, it's hard to find that line that you draw where you stop drinking iced coffee. For me, it's like late November, and there's snow outside. It's freezing cold. And I love iced coffee. It's the best thing ever.
Why put timelines on it?
I know. That's what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about, Dave. Why put timelines on when you'll eat breakfast?
Because they're already titled as breakfast foods, breakfast cereals.
I feel like we just brought this to a place where you called yourself out on your own argument earlier in this conversation.
No, I called you out on your BS over that. I totally did.
All right. We'll have to review the tapes later.
We will.
Maybe we both learned something here tonight. I don't know.
We need an instant replay button on this show. We have 6 minutes left with you tonight, and I want to ask you in regards to what you see happening here with UFOs, disclosure. I know you are someone who has your eye on the prize. It may not be your specialty. I know you're not a ufologist, but I know you're paying attention. You know, with everything that's gone on over the last few months, we got the 180 days coming up on June 1st. What is your opinion of what's going to happen with that report after 180 days?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like most people, I think I'm optimistic, but also pessimistic based on what we've seen over the last, checking my watch here, almost 90 years of disinformation. So, yeah, I don't hold it in high regard. I think it's a great step forward, and the fact that it's even being talked about or written in legislation is phenomenal. It's like marijuana legalization, where when I was a kid, it was like, what? It's never going to be legal. The cops are always arresting us for stuff, and then boom, it is, and it's crazy. It doesn't seem real, but with disclosure, with the information that's coming out, it's starting to feel like that same sort of thing where it's actually maybe something's happening. Whether this is that thing or it's just another redirect, it's smoke being blown, who knows? But I hope it's something, even if it's not. The fact that we're talking about it and it's making its way into the mainstream press, I think is a tremendous step forward, and I'm encouraged by that, if anything else.
Do you think we're actually going to get any real news? Yes, it's great that we're going to have a report, but I just think of everything that's going to be redacted in there. We're not going to get any big juice, that we want.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of black lines across probably everything. At this point, it's just a wager. I don't know. And in fact, it'd be fun if we could start like some sort of March Madness Super Bowl where we're all trying to bet on what exactly we learn from this. But I would put my money on no. I don't think it's going to be information. I think, and it's fantastic that there's so many people that will just pick it apart and dive into it and are excited about it, because it's thrilling. This is a really interesting question, and I find it to be exciting. It's weird and it's fun, and I think if there's anything there, we'll find it. But I don't think they're necessarily going to give us everything we want to know. It might be a little bit here, it might be a little bit there, but we'll definitely know within a couple of weeks what's there, because there's a lot of really committed people and really a lot of great minds and great researchers in the UFO community that are going to dig deep into what they do give us, and I think pull out all of the bits that are important. And I'm excited for that part, if anything else, too.
Well, I just hope, and I don't want to sound negative because it's so easy to jump on the negative train. I just hope that there is something there that we can, get our claws into. You know?
Me too.
And I just, I don't want to be that negative Nancy who says, told you nothing was going to happen. I've already got the Karen hairdo right now, right? I don't want to be a full-on Karen on this. But I mean,
you just need more of that Mighty Moose wax, man.
Oh yeah, very true, very true. But I don't feel positive about it. And to me, I think what's going to happen is I think the report is going to get delayed, and it's going to get delayed indefinitely, and we're going to be hanging out trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? What do we do now? And that sucks. It sucks for a lot of people.
It does. As much as we disagree about breakfast for dinner, I feel like we agree completely about this. Like, the way you said that is exactly how I feel. And it's hard. You want it. You want to feel it. You want to have it. But you also don't want to be like, oh, no, we're never going to get it. We're in this weird place, but I don't know. Time will tell, I guess.
And what's the future for you watching this?
Other than the pina coladas with Sasquatch on the shores of Hawaii, you mean?
Yes.
Because I'm still hoping for that. I don't know if that was when we were on air in a break at this point, but no, future for me is trying to still bring something, what little I can to this conversation, while also still enjoying life and doing my other research and teaching my classes and hanging out with my family, and hopefully going to music festivals again, because that was a big part of my life, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Two of our radio stations that were on KZFX and of course the other one, the Rattler out of
Apache Junction in Arizona. They're trying to team up to put together some concerts and a concert schedule.
Yeah, it's starting.
I can't get across the border. The border's closed.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because you guys had all that COVID and weren't keeping it under control, and here in America we were being responsible. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Dr. Mike, we got to say goodnight to you, my friend. Let's not make it a year and a half. You're a good friend of this show. Let's do it soon.
It's been too long. And I'm going to get a new sweatshirt, the updated version. But yeah, thanks, man. It's been fun.
All right, Dr. Michael P. Masters, everyone. His book can be found on Amazon. Remember, coming up, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great show, man.
Yeah, that was fun. It was good talking to you. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, let's do it again soon. I have a new book in I'm thinking 9 months or something.
Okay.
So
I may for the month of May, I'm debating because of this June 1st thing. I'm really debating about putting together a panel regarding what may come out, or a reactionary panel to what didn't come out, or if it's delayed.
Yeah.
I'd like you to be a part of that if you don't mind.
Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, it seems like afterwards we'll know. We could have an informed discussion on what happened, or like you said, what didn't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely just keep me posted, man. That sounds like a lot of fun.
All right, brother. You take care, okay?
Yeah, you too. Have a good night, and
have a
hope
great
your
long
snow
weekend.
melts fast up there, my friend.
Oh yeah, because I don't need any more workouts like I had today.
Exactly.
You know, walking along on these snowmobile trails, and all of a sudden you just sink 2.5 feet. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't need any reminders that I'm fat, okay? Like
it's fun like the first couple weeks of November, and by this time you're just like, I just want to walk on solid fucking ground. Come on.
Oh yeah, dude. Totally.
Hate it.
Totally.
Wow. I'm right there with you, man. So yeah, may your snow melt fast, and may your weekend be delightful.
You too, buddy. You take care.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye. He's a good dude. Such a dry sense of humor. Such a dry sense of humor. Oh, man. Everybody, excuse me. Ugh. Literally, don't get stuck in the snow in a side-by-side. It sucks. Especially when you have to winch yourself out because you've sunk your side-by-side. I almost put mine sideways today, trying to come up this embankment out of a creek. We had to cross a creek. I almost put it sideways. I looked down at my boy in the passenger seat, and literally the snow wall is like starting to come in on him. It was awesome. Took me 4 times to get up that hill. 5 times. Wait till after the show. Not enough time right now. Guest did not win the debate, Renee. Go wash your mouth out with soap. Breakfast for dinner bullshit. Where was that music festival? I'm curious. Thanks, Sovereign Farts, you stinky bastard. Thank you, by the way, to UFO Not, Fapster, Cat Chaser, Science Bob, and J1, and Cat Chaser Oh, my goodness. Cat chaser again? What does it matter? Oh, I know what that is. That's my chili. That was my chili. Yeah. I had chili for dinner. No problem, Ron. That's what we do here. Greenville, South Carolina. Oh, I can't wait for this to get opened up here. I can't wait. Terrible times, having good times in Live Oak, Florida. No, Dave is not a fan of corner gas. Brett Butt in that show, the lead guy, is the most unfunny man I have ever heard. Like, he ranks up there with Bob Saget, Whoopi Goldberg, Dave Coulier, and Roseanne Barr. Not funny. Here we go, guys. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the werewolves. A reported werewolf sighting in a South London graveyard has cryptozoology enthusiasts doing a double take. According to reports, the sighting eerily matches another one from 8 years beforehand. The two close encounters seem to help legitimize each other. Local researcher Andy McGrath said that he developed a personal fascination with the werewolf of Camberwell. When looking for more information on the alleged cryptid, he found the accounts from 1996 and 2004, which he said sounds like something for fantasists and horror fans. He explained the two sightings, highlighting their remarkable similarities. On October 9th, 1996, a man en route to see a friend had decidedly to take a shortcut through Camberwell Old Cemetery to save time when something strong grabbed him by the arm and smashed him to the ground, said the 44-year-old McGrath. He saw a large creature with dark fur and a head like a German shepherd, looking at him intently, slobbering and growling and sniffing his body up and down, just like a dog would. Just as quickly as the attack started, it was all over, and the beast sprinted off on its hind legs. Curiously, the witness believed that he was spared because he suffers from a disease that dogs can smell, and thinks that's probably because of this the creature left him alone. He then added, McGrath, that is, described a second encounter from 2004, which had two eyewitnesses. We heard a low growl one of the witnesses said. Then a large tree in the corner of the cemetery was shaking incredibly hard, as if something really powerful was shaking it with all its might. It was definitely not made by a person or an animal. The tree looked as if the roots were ready to be ripped out. My friend and I took our heels and ran as fast as we could in different directions, they went on. We could not rationalize the sheer terror we both felt. We knew we had to get away from the cemetery as fast as we possibly could. There's something very sinister there. McGrath, by the way, said he actually considered himself a skeptic. Here we go. He was the skeptic. This is where you know there is BS in all the research, when they have to announce that they are skeptical. Anyways, that's for another show, another day. He said he was a skeptic before digging up these two accounts. However, the apparent corroboration of the stories has taken him to the urban legend more seriously. He said, if a creature is described as being animal-like, then it probably is an animal, and not uncommonly a known animal. Even if it qualifies, it portrays seems superficially supernatural at the time. Modern-day sightings of the dogman, or as it has been traditionally known throughout history, the werewolf, are the type that I would have laughed at a few years ago. This is because the likelihood of an upright bipedal wolfman has seemed biologically implausible to me, nothing more than a fanciful fairy tale to scare medieval kids straight and keep them out of the woods. Remember, he is a skeptic, a professional skeptic. He told us so. After researching this phenomena for many years, I have become fascinated by the sheer volume of eyewitnesses who claim to have encountered this bipedal wolf-like creature in our modern era, something which defies rational explanation as much today as in those formative fabled days of myth and legend, because he is a skeptic. He is a skeptic, and he is looking into it because he's going to get to the answer because he is a skeptic. He told us so. As you can tell, it's a pet peeve. It really is. Imagine hurtling through the world's oceans, trapped in a steel tube that's about 350 feet long, 40 feet wide. You eat, sleep, work in the tube with 110 other people, all doing their part to prepare the ship for war and prevent the vessel from sinking to the bottom of the ocean and running into underwater mountains. It's a stressful and difficult place to be on a submarine, but this one, you can add bed bugs to the mix as well. For most of last year, sailors assigned to the USS Connecticut say their submarine suffered a serious bed bug infestation, and the U.S. Navy didn't do enough to prevent it. The sailors told the Navy Times they have been complaining about the bed bug since March 2020. But according to Popular Military, the Navy said the sailors only first reported the problem in December 2020, and the service didn't find any bed bugs on board until February 2021. The Navy said it's properly addressed the infestation, but the sailors claim the service took insufficient measures and used them as live bait to see if the bugs remained after the measures took place. The sailors alleged their command didn't believe their initial report of the infestation, and the service's attempt to steam bunks and apply pesticides failed to kill the pest. Bedbugs are small parasitic insects that feed off of the blood of humans. The bugs typically live in mattresses and bedding, a problem exacerbated on a submarine where two sailors might alternate sleeping in the same space. The insects were largely killed off in the U.S. after the invention of the pesticide DDT. In recent years, however, the bugs have gradually returned since the U.S. banned DDT on environmental grounds in 1972. There are few easy, effective treatments for killing the insects. The Connecticut is one of 3 Seawolf-class submarines, which many experts consider to be the most capable attack subs in the world. The Seawolf subs' hulls are made of advanced HY100 alloy steel, and they could reportedly dive up to 2,000 feet. The vessels are also reportedly up to 70 times quieter than their predecessors, the Los Angeles class, and have 8 torpedo tubes and carry 50 guided torpedoes. And with all of that and a price tag of $3 billion, taxpayer money on a single submarine, the submarine cannot defeat bedbugs. Weird one here. Is it a portal to hell, or what the hell is it? A woman's raising eyebrows on the internet right now after she discovered a creepy light emanating from the drain of her hotel hot bathtub. Photos of the bizarre find have racked up thousands of views in 24 hours on social media. I'm in a hotel and I just noticed that the bath drain has a light coming from it. What could it be? The unnamed hotel guest wrote about the pics, which she posted Wednesday in a Facebook group, Things Found in Walls and Other Hidden Findings. The photos show the circular trap emitting a strange orange glow reminiscent of rocket thrusters or an old-school industrial furnace. Intrigued, Facebook sleuths tried to shed light on the find. That's clearly a portal to hell, suggested one commentator. Another described it as the proverbial hellhole, creepy as F. I don't know, but if someone down there asks if you'd like a balloon, just say no, joked another one. Some actually provide believable explanations for the glow-in-the-dark drain. Most hotels have a chase between the rooms where all the mechanical systems are exposed so they can be maintained, speculated one Facebook plumbing expert. If the trap in the tub is plastic and the maintenance person left the light on in the chase on, it will be visible in your room. That's probably what's happening here. This isn't the first time someone has made a spine-tingling discovery in their bathroom. A New York City renter petrified the internet after happening upon a parasite-esque space between the bathroom mirror in her apartment. The portal didn't harbor anything sinister, but it did parallel a 1987 Chicago murder case in which a woman was killed by someone who crawled through her bathroom mirror. The appalling crime was reportedly provided for the inspiration for the 1992 horror flick Candyman. Hey, I threw in this story for Captain Shirk because this one just happened like real close to where SOR Studios is, like just about half an hour, 40 minutes away. A Williams Lake resident is considering buying a lottery ticket after luckily stumbling across a rare white moose while out on the scenic drive during the weekend. People have always told me that I'm lucky, but this one kind of trumps them all, said Hadi Deo, who managed to capture a video and photographs from the encounter on the back road in the Caribou outside of Williams Lake. Hey, that's where we are. That's where we are. Yeah, us. We're number one right now. White moose. We're number one. It was with its mom, which was a brown moose. I didn't know what it was at first. I thought it was a cow with long legs. Growing up in a rural home, Deo said she's heard of white moose, also called the spirit moose, sightings before, however, never imagined she would witness one firsthand. It was pretty impactful, she said, 1 in a million. Deo said after she parked her vehicle, the mother of the white moose calf carried on, but it stayed behind. It didn't go anywhere, she said. It was really cool. Stood out there for about 10 minutes, then just casually strolled away. Caribou Chilcotin Zone Conservation Officer Sergeant Jeff Tyre said in his roughly 14-year career, he's never come across a white moose. It's definitely unique. You only ever see one like that once in your lifetime. Moving on, YouTube stars Alan and Alex Stokes, twins known for provocative video gags, have pleaded guilty to charges stemming from 2 fake bank robberies they staged in California, one of which led to the police drawing their guns on the brothers' unsuspecting Uber driver. The 23-year-old brothers were originally each charged with 1 felony count of false imprisonment by violence, menace, or fraud, and 2 misdemeanor counts of falsely reporting an emergency in connection with the October 15, 2019 pranks in the city of Irvine. Those charges carried a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison, according to the Orange County District Attorney's Office, but the brothers accepted a bargain offer by the judge, reducing the felony count to a misdemeanor and imposing a more lenient sentence, probation, and 160 hours of community service in return for a guilty plea. The judge also ordered the brothers, who boast nearly 7 million subscribers on YouTube, to stop making videos mimicking criminal behavior, the district attorney's office said. The plea was entered in court Tuesday over the objection of prosecutors who felt the tougher charges were warranted given the potential danger to the community, Kimberly Edds, the district attorney's spokeswoman, said. A similar stunt in Tennessee last February ended with the prankster fatally shot by his victim. In the Stokes case, the brothers dressed in black clothing and ski masks and carried duffel bags full of cash as they pretended to flee from a bank robbery, while their video videographer recorded the stunt. The brothers hailed an Uber whose operator refused to drive them, all of which an onlooker took for a carjacking in progress. Police arrived and ordered the Uber driver out of his vehicle at gunpoint before realizing it was a gag. The officers let the Stokes brothers go with a warning, but they repeated the stunt 4 hours later at a university campus and were arrested on scene. All for clicks. All for clicks. You don't have to fly to Paris anymore to see the Mona Lisa, not with Le Louvre's new online platform, Louvre Collections. The museum has digitized a staggering number of its artworks, with some 480,000 pieces that are now accessible for free on the newly launched online platform. The platform can be thought of as an online exhibit of paintings, engravings, sketchings, objects, and sculptures from the entirety of the museum's galleries. It also documents images of statues from the nearby Tuileries and Carousel Gardens. The museum's 8 departments are showcased in full, and art lovers will be able to view a variety of pieces from Renaissance sculptures to Egyptian art. Le Louvre's most famous works include the Mona Lisa, Venus de Milo, and Liberty Leading the People, are all on display on the online collection. Those who do not know where to begin can start with the collection's theme albums or use an interactive map to navigate Le Louvre's room by room to see where the works are displayed in the museum itself. Researchers will also find Le Louvre's collection site handy as it comes fully equipped with a search engine. Visitors to the site can look up exactly which date the work was created and the collection to which it belongs. Today, Le Louvre is dusting off its treasures. Even the least known, Jean-Luc Martinez, president of Le Louvre, said in a statement, "For the first time, anyone can access the entire collection of works from a computer or smartphone for free, whether they are on display in the museum, on loan, even long-term, or in storage." That's kind of cool. That is really kind of cool. I'm actually going to check that out. I'm not a big artsy guy, but stuff like that, I mean, that's history. That's history. It's beautiful. A man who returned to his car in the parking lot of a New Mexico grocery store ended up needing help from firefighters when he found a swarm of 15,000 honeybees taking up residence in his vehicle. The Las Cruces Fire Department said the man told firefighters he'd only been inside the Albertson stores for about 10 minutes when he came back outside to find thousands of bees flying around inside the Buick he had borrowed from a friend. The man called 911, and firefighters who arrived at the scene summoned Jesse Johnson, an off-duty firefighter with years of beekeeping experience. Johnson said it's common for bee colonies to split in the spring, with thousands of the insects and a queen going off in search of a new home. He said the vehicle's open window likely seemed like an inviting location. Luckily, when bees are swarming, they're pretty docile, Johnson said. They don't have a home to protect for a moment. It is much more intimidating than it is dangerous. Johnson said it took about half hour to remove the bees from the vehicle and transplant them into an empty hive box. He said the bees will join the 4 hives he keeps at his home. Firefighter department said one firefighter and a store security guard were stung by the bees, but no one was seriously hurt. That's kind of cool. Love the bees. Love them. And finally tonight, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation said its officers were dispatched to a home of a woman who discovered a wild turkey had crashed through the window of her home. The DEC said an environmental conservation officer was dispatched to the home of a woman who heard a loud noise inside her Erie County residence and discovered a turkey had crashed through a second-floor window. As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. The woman who was able to confine the turkey into an upstairs bathroom before the officer arrived. The officer summoned a second officer for assistance. The two were able to pin the turkey down with a neighbor's fishing net and take it outside. The turkey did not appear to be injured and was once again released. God is my witness. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's thought of the day is as follows. What interests you the most about the UFO UAP phenomena? Start with Steam Train Mark in Australia, who was polite enough to let us know that we are alive tomorrow. The fact nobody is admitting anything, but everybody is talking about it. Graham wants to know about the ray guns, 13 ballads, retrieval of an ancient crashed craft, basically add seasoning to history, and modern UFO Twitter. Greco Opa to you. I think people will be interested in my new menu item because he has a Greek restaurant just outside of Toronto. You know what's funny? He's never given me the name of that restaurant. I think he does it on purpose because he knows I'll make sure he eats the bill. That's the kind of guy I am. Anyways, he says, I think people will be interested in my new menu item, UABM. What's that, you ask? Unidentified alien buffet meats in secret sauce. Come one, eat all. Melinda, someone finds her very attractive, I'm sure. Being beamed aboard for a ride, maybe? UFO bro, what they can do for humanity. Darkly depressed, otherwise known as Jer. Crash retrievals, man. I need crash retrievals. All right, let's move on. Barry, the vehicles can travel at hypersonic speed without creating a sonic boom. That in itself is telling us a lot. Perhaps these craft do not fly aerodynamically. Robin, the impact on humanity that a true disclosure will bring, socially, technologically, and spiritually. Once it is common knowledge, openly known, and verified that we are not alone, many, many things will change on this planet. Sirkan, there is no vehicle, there is no flight. What is being observed is manifestations or transmogrifications of intelligence events in a symbolic realm information space onto our four-dimensional physical reality. That's why you don't hear sonic booms and beings can appear going through walls, etc. What it interests me is how it happens. Stephen, the imagination put into it from the hoaxers. That's very true. The hoaxers are very talented. Science Bob, the mystery and the puzzle. Who? Why? Can I throw in how there, Science Bob? Do you mind? I don't know. Maybe he won't. Davey, it's an enlightenment. It literally feels like moving out of the darkness into the light. We are glimpsing something that is just beyond our current senses and understanding. Serena, everyone from the ancients lost in history to today are seeing things in the skies that they can't explain. Its durability accounts for those who encounter the occupants display a remarkable consistency. Kevin, Dave, investigators find partially melted toenail clippings at 64% of all sites reported in abduction cases. Kate, how much is known but unconfirmed is fascinating. Who is less prepared for the truth being revealed than the average person or their government, and why? Tyler, the implications of the tech and how it could alter humanity forever, as well as launch us into becoming a true publicity-acknowledged breakaway civilization. Thank you to everybody taking part in today's Thought of the Dave. We are going to do it all again very, very soon on Twitter and on Facebook. Hey, look who's back on Twitter. We got Derek and Goddess Michelle. Wow. Wow. The Goddess has a night off. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Anyways, thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR News Wire. And, of course, Dr. Michael P. Masters for talking about time travel, UFOs, and so much more. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Twitter, at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, the Space Travelers Club, and of course, Vivster, Sparkles, and Penman on Facebook. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends,
make a mistake, we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.